Hello everybody, Ole Gamer Joe back here with another Media Moogle review. I guess the theme for April is that everything wants to kill me, and Grimvalor is no exception. This game was originally released on mobile platforms, but it has now made its way over to the Nintendo Switch as of April 7th, 2020. It is currently $12.99 to purchase, and was developed and published by Direlight. So let's not beat around the bush, because clearly this is a game that was inspired heavily by the Souls series. That is glaringly obvious to me, at least throughout the game's presentation, its sound design, the controls of the game. But is that a bad thing? Well, not necessarily. I mean, people love those games, and for good reason. At the beginning of your quest, you may choose between a male or female character, whichever you prefer. There are no differences between the two, outside of the look and gender, of course. You set out to find your king, who has been missing from the kingdom of Valeris. However, the darkness cometh, and you are forced into battle with evil demons, and that is the main outline for your journey. This will task your character with battling through a variety of caves and dungeons, dealing with a lot of different enemy types, with the rest of the story being told through a few NPCs and some books that you will find scattered across the lands for the most part. So Grimvalor is not a game that features a robust or really deep or intricate story of any kind, but it's at least decent enough to hold your attention. But fear not, because if the story is unable to capture your attention, the gameplay certainly will, and will keep you on your toes throughout the entire journey. While your first hour or so of the game may come off as a pretty standard 2D hack-and-slash adventure, do not underestimate Grimvalor, because there is a layer of depth to the combat, despite the simplicity of the controls. You can actually hold up to two weapons at once in this game, with a standard slashing attack and a heavier attack, which definitely comes in handy when you're trying to wear down an armor level of a boss, or just deal with some enemies that are giving you a hard time and put them in a stunned state, where you can then hack away at them with your normal attack to deal with them. There is a limit to this mechanic, however, as you do have a bit of a magic bar underneath your health, and it can be used up and only earned back by progressing further and killing more enemies. So you can't just kind of scum your way through this. You do have to eventually rely on some dodging mechanics and some standard attacks in order to succeed. You will dodge with the A button, and this will also send you into a full-on sprint, which is really useful for getting around the various settings of this game at a faster rate, and I could see being a lot of fun for speedrunners. You can also hold down your standard attack button, which feels a little bit weird at first, but for the most part you end up being thankful for that option, because you're not mashing your finger into oblivion. Outside of that, you have a double jump, which will help you to reach higher areas and find some of the game's treasures, which are well hidden throughout the different areas of this game. There are a couple of currencies in the game, including one which will help you to level up your character and obviously grow stronger, which you can do manually and actually select which attributes of your character you want to level up. So that's nice. You can kind of do a build all of your own. So if you want a strength build, that's an option and you don't want to focus on other things. I took a more balanced approach myself. And there are darker crystals that can also be found, which are used to make your forge better, which allows you to purchase new weapons and upgrades to help you along your way, including some cool necklaces that give you different attributes to your attacks. You also carry with you vials of potions, which obviously restore your health, and you can upgrade the amount of these as well. But if you find yourself needing to be healed in a pretty intense combat situation, then things can get difficult, because you're going to need to distance yourself from your enemies, because there is a little bit of an animation that has to take place before you heal yourself using these vials. All of your level gaining and weapon upgrading takes place in little hub areas that are scattered across the lands, and they serve to help break up the intensity and difficulty of this game and give you a moment of respite, because believe me, you are going to need it. Grimvalor is a game that will absolutely decimate you at times, particularly in its extremely difficult boss battles. My jaw hit the floor on more than one occasion at just how much my health was drained by a single hit from some of the enemies and bosses in this game. So just like the titles from which it is inspired from, this is a game that requires really good execution on the part of the player, and will certainly require you to grind around different areas of the game, collecting all of the treasure that you can, all while gaining levels in order to get stronger and be able to deal with some of the very tough situations that Grimvalor puts you in. But for the most part, I found that the grind to this game wasn't really that annoying, and I actually enjoyed revisiting areas, collecting all of the treasure that I had missed, scaling up different walls, which by the way I should mention you can wall run in this game, and always feeling like I was progressing and getting stronger throughout the journey, something that I can definitely appreciate. It really made the moments where you do finally learn these patterns and topple these bosses so satisfying, and a sense of relief for sure. But that said, you have been warned, this is an extremely difficult game, and one flaw that really did bother me throughout the experience is the fact that when you die, and you will die often obviously, you are greeted with these load screens that do take quite a while to get back into the action. That was a little bit of a bummer, and it did slow the overall pace and enjoyment of the game. I'm not usually the biggest complainer of load screens, and obviously the Switch is a little behind in terms of hardware spec, but due to the rate at which I was dying in this game, I couldn't help but be a little bit annoyed by that aspect. I do also want to mention that the jumping in this game is a little bit floaty and takes some getting used to. It doesn't feel exactly perfect, but for the most part you are able to adapt to it, and it wasn't a huge deal. Graphically, the best way that I could sum up Grimvalor is just kind of bland and okay. It's not offensively bad looking, but it's not great looking either. There isn't a lot of detail to the enemies, and they're sort of bland. Your main character isn't super interesting, though I do like the touches such as when you put on new armor that does make a cosmetic change to your character, and the new swords all look pretty cool. For the most part, this is a pretty mediocre looking title, but the sound effects and soundtrack are actually pretty good. Unfortunately, I couldn't share a snippet of the sound with you, as I was warned it would give me a copyright strike, but that said, I did enjoy the orchestrated pieces that are found throughout the game. They're nice and soothing, and they really do fit the mood quite well. Some of them are a little more intense, like in the boss battles, and overall it's a really nice score with some really good music. Grimvalor may be a difficult game, but it is also a really fun game and an addicting game once you get into the loop and really get a feel for its combat mechanics. The game's performance on the Switch was a little bit of a mixed bag, with more intense areas that featured a lot of enemies really making the frame rate chug along. That's a little bit disappointing given the fact that this is not a graphical powerhouse by any means. At the end of the day though, it doesn't change the fact that Grimvalor does feature a pretty addictive gameplay style that I quite enjoyed, and I do actually recommend this title because it's a lot of fun and it really is a time sink that will keep you playing for hours on end and reward you with some really satisfying moments. For more on Grimvalor and all of our other content, head on over to MediaMoogle.net, where we have some great podcasts for you to check out. And if you have enjoyed our video content today, help us bring a voice to the voiceless by subscribing today. Thank you so much for watching.